So, another day in the life of a Ferrari owner. My driver's side window stopped working. Obviously, the number one culprit when something electric, specifically a button or a switch goes out, is to check the fuses. But I don't think that's the case here, because it's not only the window regulator that's not getting power going up and down, it is also every other electrical component of this window, of this door. The window's not working. The lock mechanism from the key is not locking or unlocking the door. And also the mirror adjuster, which my kids have broken off, does not control the mirrors anymore. So what I'm thinking, it's probably either a ground or the entire wire harness that's going to the door. There is a fault there, and it's not just a fuse. So where I'm going to start is make sure that all of these connections are proper, that the ground leading up to it is not blocked or cut off or anything. And then if everything looks fine there and inside the car, then I'm going to move to inside the door panel. I'll remove the door panel and make sure that nothing has, sometimes with these cars, when you're driving hard, which I do, you're supposed to drive hard Ferraris. When you hit a bump, some of those connections, if they're not tied properly, they'll just snap off and fall down. So it might be just a connection. So that's where I'm going to start. Number one, I don't think it's a fuse, because all the electrical components on this door panel are not working. So I think it's something with the wiring harness. And the best thing to do is to start at the lowest common denominator. Start solving the lowest common problem first. I'm gonna start right there, move inside the car, and then if I don't find a culprit or a fault there, then move into the door panel. And then I'll discuss how to remove the door panel on this car. Anyway, let's do this. So the harness going to the door looks to be proper. There's nothing loose on the inside. So I'm going to move to removing the door panel. And here's where to start. There's a screw, a Phillips screw inside the door hatch, which I've already removed. 2 hex screws right here holding the carbon fiber, or if you have a different package, it might be a different trim, leather or plastic, I don't know, whatever. So you remove these 2 hex screws, just pull that off, and there's 2 more hex screws that are holding this panel to the door. There's also another Phillips screw inside this thing. Damn it, I broke it. Anyway, broke that, so we'll attend to that later. But there's 1 screw, 2, 3, 4, and then after you move this panel, 5, 6 more screws in there. So I'm going to start there, and then I'll start shooting the video after I remove those 6 screws that I just identified. All right, so I removed the door handle. Actually, apparently on the carbon fiber option, this is 1 solid piece and just has those 1, 2 hex screws. Once you take this off, the door handle comes straight out. These are the screws. They look to be about 3 to 4 inches long. Once you remove that and the Phillips screw that's inside the door handle, then you just start popping it from the side that's closest to the engine, and that pops up quickly from these little things, and then you just go on the side, pop it all the way across. So I have 1 wire that's going into the door handle, the second one that's going into the mirror adjustment, and this is the tension line that's going into the door handle as well. 1 electric line, 1 tension line, and then you have the line going into the mirror adjustment. So I already took this one off. I'm going to take that one off. This one might be, I think I'm not going to take that off, just going to put it to the side. and then we'll investigate why I'm not getting power to the window regulator. And I've noticed that this thing is broken, so I'm gonna, while I'm here, I'm also gonna address this issue. So here's inside this armrest. It actually sits like this. I twist it around. That's the power line going into the door handle, the door latch. That's the mirror adjustment switch, and that's the tension line to the door handle. I think I'm just gonna remove that as well, just to give myself a little more room. But this one was a little tricky to remove. Apparently, it's a lock switch, so you just have to. That's the lock position right there. You press that in, boom. You press that thing in right there, and unlock it, and then you remove it by pulling it towards the engine. All right, so that's it. That's inside, and then we'll start investigating all of this stuff. All right, so the armrest is off, that panel is off, and this is what I'm seeing so far. Haven't been able to identify any culprits with all these wires, so I'm going to go ahead and take off the rest of the door panel. And I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hex screws that are holding the main panel to the door. So I'm going to start by removing those. I highly recommend removing the battery line, because there is an airbag that sits inside this door. You don't want that going off. First of all, it's very expensive, and second, most importantly, if it does, it's very painful. So yeah, I'm gonna start right here, and then I'll catch back with you in a few minutes. All right, so remove all these screws, and then this panel seems to be very strongly attached at the bottom. I thought it was clips, but when I look at the bottom, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 additional hex screws at the bottom of the door. So I'm gonna remove that and then try to pull it out, and we'll see where we go from there. Okay. So after removing those 4 hex screws that look like this from the bottom of the door, I use, where's my pry tool? This one, slid it inside and just toggled it around to unhook those little hinges. And then when I got all the way to the bottom, to the top of the door, I noticed that there's another hex screw that's behind this cover right here. So remove that, and now I'm going to remove this screw and go with my pry tool extremely gently on top of the door and try to pry the door open. And of course, there's more screws, one right there that I found out that I have to remove, and one more right there. So on top you have 1, 2, and 3 to remove. So checked all the wire connections, all the harnesses. They look to be connected, they look to be in good shape, no rust, nothing. I mean, you can't have to take this off to have access to the window regulator that's right there. That looks to be in good shape, no bend, nothing bent, nothing, there's no burnt smells. The regulator looks to be working. So now I'm gonna move back to the fuse box and see if I can find a culprit there. And if that doesn't work, then I'll just try to power the window regulator by hot wiring it and see if I can get it to go up and down. And to remove the fuse for the window regulator is under this panel right here, and it's held by these hex screws. So I'm going to move those and pop it out and check the fuse diagram, and I'll post the fuse diagram at the end of this video. So here's the fuse box situation. There's one in the passenger's footwell, which is on the right side of the car in the American version. behind that plate right there. There's also a fuse box right here under the cup holders and the rear passengers section. Obviously, that's the one that I showed you. Behind this plate right here, which is held by 2 hex screws. There's a main one right here. Behind that plate right there, there's one in the rear, in the trunk right here behind a plate, and that's it. Those are the main ones. The ones for the passenger's seat and the driver's seat and the driver's windows are behind here, and I haven't been able to, I checked all the fuses. As I suspected, they're all fine. So I opened up the power relay, the power line that's coming to the window motor, and it's not getting any power. So we're going to see what's going on. So the door panel went back up, and a couple tips for putting the door back up is once you put the door back up, I highly recommend loosely attaching this screw. That will help you hold the door, the panel to the door, while you adjust this side. And sorry, I'm all out of breath. Oh boy. Anyway, this goes to the window adjuster. This goes the sensor on the door handle, and this is the door latch. I connected all 3 of them with painter's tape, so I can just pull them all together, and that pulls through this big hole right here. And before you do that, make sure you attach the airbag sensor. So that goes first. The speaker attachment goes second, and once you put those 2 in, put the door panel against the door, put that screw in to help you hold the door, and then kind of just tap it in, and then kind of work backwards. Put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 these screws in first. And 6. Tighten all of those. And then there's hex screws that go at the bottom of the door. Oh, and one thing I forgot, the door light. Make sure you fish that out of the door. And the best way to do that is, where is the cover? Anyway, to take the cover off, fish that through the door, and then where did I put? Oh, here it is. And then put this back in, and then push it back. But anyway, so that's it. I'm going to attach this panel, hook up all the sensors that are on the armrest, and not the sensors, I'm sorry, the switch for the window, the handle switch, and then the door latch wire, and that's it. And then take it to the dealer to program this door module. Okay, I did my part, spent about a day, and then maybe about 30 minutes today putting it back together. No luck, so hopefully the dealer can figure it out. All right, that's it, guys. Hope this helps. I think I might have ended things a little too early. You know, it's with cars, it's 10 steps forward and, you know, usually at least 2 steps backwards. And here are my 2 steps backwards. This screw right here, and let's see if I can find it. Anyway, it was stripped, so I had to take it off. And while taking it off, I had to, I used that grinder to grind it in a way so I could put a screw in it and twist it off. While doing that, this part broke off. So now I'm going to glue this back, and what I'm using is GBL welt, the cure-it-all substance. And I made a little extra. I'm gonna do this, and I think there was also a couple cracks that form in this plastic. I'm also gonna fix that. So yeah, I'm gonna attach this, let it cure overnight, and then come back and attach the paddle. But anyway, that's what happened. Here's the grinder. If you have a stuck screw, that's what you have to do. Just use a grinder, make a diagonal cut, and then use the screwdriver to open it up. But sometimes, you know, Ferrari plastic is not the best plastic and it breaks off easily, and that's what happened. Anyway, gonna glue this in. So I unplugged the door switches to make sure that, you know, those are not the ones at fault. And what I did is I connected the power lines from the working switch, which is the one on the passenger side, to the one on the driver's side, and it didn't work. And I did the same thing. I connected the drivers to the passenger side and it worked. So the switches work. Both of these switches were able to put the working window up and down, but none of these switches were able to put the window that's not rolling up and down. We're not able to move it. So the switches are good. There is red and a red and a black, negative and positive going to both of the switches, and then both switches have two-way relays for up and down, and those are the only two that you have to kind of toggle with. And that's, let me see if I can zoom in. So the yellowish and brownish on the right side, and on this side it will be the greenish and kind of the yellowish as well. So the ones on both ends are the ones that you have to toggle to switch the relays. But anyway, so it's not this. And the way you take this off is you connect the emergency wire to that, and then it just has clips. Slides in, and then two clips, one on each side. No screws, nothing. After whole day's worth of work, checking the switch and realizing that both of them work, there's no fault with the switches. I checked all the fuses. Fuses look good, so it's not the fuses. I knew it was none of those because, as I said early in the video, the entire door is not getting power. And lo and behold, my dumb head did not realize that, you know, for fancy cars, especially ones like Ferrari and German cars, European cars, they have a control module for each door that controls your, not only your window regulator, but also your switches, door switches, mirror controls and everything. So I'm thinking this is the culprit. This part from Ferrari is about $1,000. On used market about $300, but I opened it up, I looked inside, I didn't see any transistors blown, any of the wiring, any burnt smells. These sometimes, when you jump the car, disconnect the car, or if there's any voltage drop or increase, they, you know, they have to be calibrated to the car. So what I'm going to do is put everything back together, take it to Ferrari, and see if they can just reprogram this module to the car. It's the original module. It hasn't been replaced. I don't think it has. Yeah, so I'm gonna put everything together. I think this is the culprit. Going to take it to Ferrari. In the meantime, I'm going to order one online as well, a used one. If Ferrari's like, no, your module is good, doesn't have to be, well, even if I replace it with a used one, I still have to reprogram with Ferrari. But after doing all the work and knocking off the usual suspects off my list, like the fuses, the switches, the wiring, the grounds, none of them used to be the problem. I'm just going to put it together, take it to Ferrari, and see if they can program it. If not, then I'll get a new one and then take it back to Ferrari and see if they can program it. So that's where I'm going to end.